I love you so much, my little one.
Cool.
You're safe with me. There you go, sweetie. You did it. Look up here. Look at Mama.
You've been told your whole life that picking up your baby every time they cry will spoil them. Your mother said it. Your neighbor said it. Maybe even your doctor hinted at it. But what if everything you've been told is not just wrong, but the complete opposite of the truth? What if the moments you pick up your crying baby are actually some of the most powerful, brain-shaping, life-changing moments in your child's entire existence? And what if ignoring those cries, even just sometimes, even with the best intentions, is quietly doing something to your baby's brain that most parents never find out about? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you what neuroscience actually says about responding to your baby's cries. And I promise, by the end of this video, you will never look at those midnight wake-up calls the same way again. Let's start with the myth, because it's older than you think. The idea that picking up a crying baby will spoil them has been around for over 100 years. In the 1920s, a psychologist named John B. Watson told parents to treat their children like small adults. Don't hug them too much. Don't comfort them too quickly. He believed that too much affection would make children weak and emotionally dependent. His ideas spread like wildfire, published in best-selling books, became the cultural norm for an entire generation of parents. But here's the surprising part. Watson's ideas were never based on actual science. They were based purely on his personal philosophy. And yet, millions of babies were left to cry alone in the dark for decades because of it. While Watson was telling parents to hold back their affection, scientists were beginning to discover something that would turn everything he said completely upside down. And what they found starts not with babies, but with monkeys. In the 1950s, psychologist Harlow took newborn monkeys and gave them 2 artificial mothers. One was cold wire with a bottle of milk. The other was soft terry cloth, with no food at all. Every instinct said the monkey should prefer the wire mother. It had the food, the survival resource. But that's not what happened. The baby monkeys spent almost all their time clinging to the cloth mother. They only visited the wire mother long enough to feed, then rushed back. When something frightened them, they ran to the cloth. They chose comfort over food, connection over survival resources. And this changes everything, because what Harlow proved, in a way impossible to ignore, is that physical comfort and emotional responsiveness are not luxuries. They are a biological need as fundamental as food, as fundamental as water. But here's where it gets even more interesting, because what Harlow found in monkeys, modern neuroscience has now confirmed in human babies at a level so deep and so permanent that it will genuinely make you rethink everything. When your baby cries, their brain is not just making noise. It is sending out a neurological alarm that triggers the release of a stress hormone called cortisol. In small doses, cortisol is fine. It's your body's way of dealing with a threat. But in a baby whose brain is still being built, prolonged exposure to cortisol is not neutral. Research published in journals like Developmental Neuroscience has shown that when a baby experiences repeated, prolonged stress with no response, no comfort, no relief, cortisol doesn't just pass through. It gets absorbed into the brain's architecture. It literally shapes the physical structure of the developing brain. Let that sit for a second. The way you respond to your baby's cries is not just an emotional choice, it is a neurological one. You are participating in the construction of your child's brain every single time you walk into that room and pick them up. Now, and this is where it gets beautiful, let's talk about what actually happens when you do respond. When you come to your crying baby, something extraordinary happens inside their brain. The stress response shuts down, cortisol levels drop, and a completely different chemical reaction kicks in, one that includes oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and dopamine, the reward chemical. Your baby's brain registers. The world is safe. I can trust. When I need help, help comes. And here's the part most parents never hear, that registration is not just emotional, it is structural. It is encoded into the neural pathways of your baby's developing prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for emotional regulation, empathy, and relationships. Every time you respond to your baby's cry, you are laying down a neural pathway that says, comfort is available. Connection is real. I am not alone. This is what scientists call secure attachment, and the research on what it predicts for a child's future is staggering. Studies following children from infancy into adulthood have found that securely attached children show significantly higher emotional resilience. They handle stress better. They form healthier relationships. They perform better academically. They are more empathetic. They even show structural differences in the regions of the brain associated with emotional regulation. All of that. From something as simple and as profound as being picked up when they cry. If no one has ever explained to you what's actually happening inside your baby's brain, the real neuroscience, the permanent effects, the small things that change everything, this is exactly what Baby Brain Signals is built for. Subscribe. New video every week. You don't want to miss what's coming next. But here's what most parents don't realize. Not all attachment looks the same. And understanding the different types is where this video goes from fascinating to genuinely useful. In the 1970s, developmental psychologist Mary Ainsworth designed a now famous experiment called the strange situation. She observed hundreds of babies as their mothers briefly left the room and then returned. And what she found was that babies responded in three very distinct ways. The first group, securely attached babies. They were upset when mom left, but when she returned, they calmed quickly and went back to playing. These were babies whose needs had been consistently met. Their brains had learned, when I'm upset, the comfort comes. And because of that reliable prediction, they could tolerate the discomfort of separation. They had a neurological expectation of repair. The second group, anxiously attached babies, extremely distressed when mom left, but when she came back, they couldn't be soothed. They clung and cried and pushed away at the same time. These babies had experienced inconsistent caregiving, sometimes responsive, sometimes not. Their brains had never been able to form a reliable prediction, so they lived in a state of constant alarm, never quite able to trust that safety was real. In the third group, this one is the most surprising. These babies showed almost no distress when mom left, and almost no reaction when she returned. They seemed fine, independent, easy. But here's what the research actually showed. When scientists measured their cortisol levels, these babies were just as stressed as the anxious ones. They had simply learned that expressing their need for comfort was pointless because it never worked. So they turned the signal off. They stopped crying, not because they were strong, because they had given up, and that learned suppression of the need for connection doesn't just disappear. Studies show that adults with this avoidant attachment pattern struggle to ask for help, have difficulty with emotional intimacy, and often experience anxiety and depression while appearing outwardly self-sufficient. The baby who seems the easiest may actually be the one whose brain is working hardest, alone. Now, here's one of the most hopeful findings in all of developmental psychology. Researcher Ed Tronick studied what he calls the rupture and repair cycle in early relationships. He found that even the most loving, attentive parents get it wrong about 30% of the time. They misread cues. They respond too late. They have days where they're too exhausted, too depleted, too human to give their best. And that's okay, because babies don't need perfection. What actually builds resilience, what actually strengthens the neural pathways of secure attachment, is the repair, the coming back. Tronick's research showed that these repair cycles, when they happen consistently, build something even stronger than perfect attunement ever could, because they teach the baby something profound. Relationships can break and be fixed. Disconnection is not permanent. The person who loves you will come back. So what do you actually do with all of this? 3 things you can start today. The first is what the Harvard Center on the Developing Child calls serve and return interaction. A baby babbles, you respond. A baby reaches towards something, you follow their gaze and name it. A baby makes a face, you mirror it back. These micro interactions, happening dozens of times a day, are the primary mechanism through which your baby's social and emotional brain gets wired. You don't need special toys or programs. You just need presence and responsiveness. The second thing, narrate your baby's inner world. Say out loud what you think your baby might be feeling. You keep looking at the window. You're curious about the light, aren't you? This sounds simple, almost silly, but babies whose parents did this consistently showed measurably different brain activity by 12 months, more active in regions associated with language, emotional processing, and self-awareness. You are not talking to yourself, you are building a brain. The third thing, physical contact. Research by neuroscientist Ruth Feldman has shown that skin-to-skin contact between a baby and caregiver triggers a cascade of neurological events that are simply not replicable any other way. Oxytocin surges, cortisol drops. Neural pathways associated with safety and social reward are activated and strengthened. And here's what I find most remarkable. Feldman's research found that physical contact with a loving caregiver can actually influence which genes are switched on or off in your baby's developing brain. Holding your baby is not spoiling them. Holding your baby is doing neuroscience. We started this video with a 100-year-old myth. A myth that said holding your baby too much would make them weak, that responding to their cries would spoil them, that love given too freely would do damage. And what science has spent the last 70 years discovering is that the myth was not just wrong, it was the precise inversion of the truth. It is not love that makes children fragile. It is the absence of love. It is not responsiveness that creates dependency. It is unresponsiveness. It is not connection that stunts development. It is disconnection. The next time your baby cries in the middle of the night, remember this. In that moment, you are not just a tired parent responding to a crying baby. You are an architect building a foundation. You are writing the first words of your child's lifelong story about whether the world is safe, whether people can be trusted, and whether they are worth showing up for. And when you walk through that door and pick them up, you are answering that question. You are saying, yes, you are worth it. I am here. You are not alone. That is not spoiling. That is the most important thing you will ever do. If this changed even one thing about how you'll respond to your baby tonight, share it with another parent who needs to hear it,